Well, here it is, another gloomy, rainy day, and we should be getting used to them by now. What do you do on a gloomy, rainy day? Well, I said to myself, I'll just make another video. The last video I did didn't seem to go over that well, so I'm going to try to spruce this one up a little more. As you can see, I got my hair cut yesterday, and there's not much there to look at. But in this case, it's a matter of convenience and comfort. So I'm not real concerned about being interviewed for any special programs today. So my hair, you take it as it is. I want to tell you a special little story today, and some of you will be very familiar with what I'm talking about. But the younger group won't have a clue. You won't have a clue. You'll say, I've never heard of such a thing. I'm talking about the days of the blue plate special. When I was a little girl, my dad's job took him away from home all during the week, and he'd come home on Friday nights and leave out again on Monday morning for his job. But while he was home on the weekend, sometime we'd all get in the car and he'd take us for a drive. We'd go from one small town to another. They were pretty close together anyway. And we'd stop on the side of a country road, and there'd be a little general store there. We'd get us an RC. Daddy liked the Vienna sausages and crackers, and we'd make a meal on something like that and then grab an apple and get back in the car and keep going. Well, those were the days that you could drive through the small town. You always went straight down Main Street where all of the shops were, and there'd be a mom and pop restaurant. That's all you had in those days, were mom and pop restaurants. There were no chain restaurants. And people like my dad, who worked away from home and traveling salesman, when they were having to spend a week or a few nights in one place, they needed a place to eat. So they depended on the mom and pop cafe. It was about the 1920s and 30s, Depression years. I talk about the Depression years a lot because my mother told me about them. There was about 40% of the population out of work, and food was hard to come by. There'd be a cafe in the town with a big sign on the window that said, "Today's Blue Plate Special." And it would list the food items. And a Blue Plate Special during those years was 25 cents. Now that seems very cheap now, but it wasn't that cheap then. Now, what the restaurant did, when they had an oversupply of food left over from one day, they didn't want to throw it out, still good food, and so they presented it the next day as the Blue Plate Special. That way there was never any waste of food in the cafe. A blue-collar worker might come in, and he's seen the sign on the window telling what the Blue Plate Special was. Many times it would be something like pinto beans, fried potatoes, cornbread, and a slice of onion. You always got a glass of iced tea or whatever drink you chose for 25 cents. Now this was a good meal. It was filling, and just what the blue-collar worker needed, because it was probably the only meal he was going to get during the day, that day. So the Blue Plate Special became very popular. Now, in the United States, it was served on a blue plate, and that blue plate happened to be manufactured in the United States, and it was called Blue Willow. The Blue Willow was a divided plate. As time passed, Blue Willow was made in other countries too, but the Blue Willow for the Blue Plate Special was made in the United States. Now, the basic combination for a Blue Plate Special was protein, carbohydrates, and some greens. That took care of the basic needs of a person. It was called a square meal for 2 bits. I'm looking at my notes because I can't remember everything I'm wanting to tell. Now, as time went by, the Blue Plate Special went out. No longer needed. A few years ago, it was my birthday. It was on my birthday, and I had already declared I'm going somewhere for my birthday. If I have to go by myself, I'm going. Where are you going? I don't know, but somewhere. So my daughter Jan got with a couple of friends and says, let's take Mom to Nashville. Off we went to Nashville. While we were there, we had not reserved a hotel room yet. We just went, and we drove first to a little town called Franklin, Tennessee. Franklin, Tennessee, if you've never been there, you should go. It has a historic district that you would love. The houses actually reminded me of the old movie Meet Me in St. Louis, Louis. Those beautiful old Victorian homes. Well, Franklin has a section that has those old, beautiful Victorian homes, and that's something I love. Well, while we were there, we found a restaurant. We'd give it a try, and we went in, and it was one called Meat and Three. Now, most of you have heard of that, I'm sure. It's an update on Blue Plate Special. You could order your meat. It could be anything: pork chop, country fried steak, meatloaf, fried chicken, and then you got 3 vegetables or 2 vegetables and a salad. So we all ordered meat and 3. And when we finished, we went up to pay our bill, and the owner was at the cash register, and he asked, this first time you've been here? Yes. He knew that because he had never seen our faces before. He said, well, come with me. I want to show you something. I've done a little remodeling, and I want to take you back in the kitchen and show you what we've done. Oh, you could tell he was proud. He was very proud of his restaurant. We went back, and all of the countertops and equipment was stainless steel. Clean. You could clean it off so easy. And he pointed it out to every new thing in the kitchen to us. And then we went back out to the cash register to pay. And he said, since this is your first time you have been here, I want to give each of you a jar of jam, homemade jam. I always give a new customer a jar of jam. Well, we were quite surprised at that, but we were still very glad to take the special jam home with us. So this is what you got from the 20s and 30s. Now, actually, The blue plate special started in the late 1800s. It wasn't called that at the time, but that the man who came up with the plates, came up with the restaurant, and called it the blue plate special. But it didn't gain popularity until the 20s and 30s during the Depression. And I still to this day like the name Blue Plate Special. It tells a story in those 3 words, and it makes you wonder, what does that mean? Now, I have just told you what it means, and I hope you will remember it. And the other thing, I like the name so well that I named my cookbook, Make Mine the Blue Plate Special. On the cover you see a big bowl of vegetable soup. It's in a blue willow bowl, and there's a blue willow plate underneath the bowl. It doesn't have a lot of recipes, but it has special recipes. And I hope you will take note of that. You might be interested in ordering it from Amazon. And if you live locally, I can provide it to you at my front door. So, I hope you have enjoyed this story. I'm sure I've left out something important that I should have told, but the main thing I wanted you to know was about the Blue Plate Special. Now, I had the blue willow dishes myself for about 35 years. They were my everyday dishes. Never broke any of them. And I finally decided I wanted something new. So I gave my blue willow dishes to my granddaughter, and I said, she can take them, she can enjoy them now. I'm ready for something different. Now what you see in front of me is a table setting. You're just seeing part of it. This right here is my lemon, big lemon. Got that at Home Goods. And got little lemons around it for decoration. But the dishes are blue and white. Now I'll tell you about them. I happen to have a few pieces that I'd picked up at a Goodwill store, and I liked them. I thought, gee, I'd kind of like to have a set of these. So little by little you find a plate, or you find a little bowl, or maybe 4 little dishes. And so I had 4 dinner plates and several small bowls. Well, I'm in the kitchen one day, and I hear the door open, and I see this big plastic tub being pushed into the room. What in the world is that? My daughter's pushing this big tub in, and she takes the lid off. She pulls out something wrapped in newspaper, and she opened it up, and she says, "Don't you have some of these?" I said, "Yeah, I've got several pieces. Why?" She says, "Well, I brought you some more." She'd been to an estate sale, and as she was leaving, the lady said, "Would you be interested in some dishes?" Well, the last thing she was interested in was dishes, and she knew the last thing I needed was dishes. But when the lady showed her the pattern, she says, "Oh my gosh, Mom got some of those." So she bargained with the lady, and she came home with an 8-place setting. This is called Blue Garland. Can you see this beautiful teapot? Be kind of hard to turn that down, wouldn't it? You see my place setting, and you see the one right in front there. It has the little berry bowl. It has a soup bowl. It has a dinner plate. And under that I put a large yellow plate to offset it with a little color. Here's the gravy boat. It has its own platter. There's the, well, it's over in the other corner, but there's a tureen, gorgeous. The cream and sugar. And my favorite thing is the little butter pats. Who would have guessed there were 7 pieces to each place setting? Now I'm going to look at this for a few days. This is going to be my Easter table. And the tiny blue flowers on the plate are so delicate. They're really nice. So when she finished pulling out all of these dishes, one by one, each piece was wrapped in newspaper, and she started stacking all of this stuff on my table, and all I could do was stand there and stare. And then she says, "Happy birthday, Mom." Well, yes, it's not my birthday yet, but it soon will be. And she was fortunate enough in finding these dishes, and she knew that I would just love them, and I do. So this is the kind of little surprise that pleases you, and you always remember how you got the dishes, what the occasion was. And I have to thank my daughter. She's a pretty good girl. She knows when I'm going to like something. So I'm going to close on this and go check the windows, see if it's still raining. I may have to turn on the TV. I never watch TV during the day. Hate it. Just hate it. And once in a while I'll turn it on in the afternoon, but I don't really watch it. I go back to my computer and I start checking to see what kind of responses I've received on my newest video. Now I hope you like this one. The last one I did was about my great-grandma Brooks, who went to the St. Louis World Fair in 1904. I got the feeling that there weren't a lot of responses to that, so I decided I would have to perk up things a little bit, and I hope this video pleases you. If you like China and you like crystal, you'll like these videos, and I'll have more of them showing more China and more crystal. This is, see this glass? It's pretty. Got the little leaf design all the way around. Pick those up. Goodwill. Don't withdraw from going into your thrift shops. You never know what you might find. And sometimes you find a jewel or two, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. If you like it, you buy it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll keep my cookbook in mind. Now I've got 2 other books that you can check out too, and they're all stories. They're all true stories. This one has a few recipes that you might want to try. Sometimes I look at them and think, why in the world did I put that recipe in that cookbook? But it meant something to me at the time I was using the recipes. Back in my younger days when I did more experimenting and cooking, and people were giving you their recipes, and I have little stories to go with each recipe, and I think you will enjoy them. So, I'm going to tell you one of the stories. I think it's in this book. I don't know which book it's in, but I was in Kroger one day, and I'm not bashful when it comes to observing what people are buying and walking up and saying, "What are you going to do with that?" And they're always responsive, and they tell me. Well, I'm watching this lady in the produce, and she got one of those great big buggies. I mean, they're getting bigger and bigger nowadays. And she was piling greens. I think it was kale. Big bunches of greens in that basket. And they were coming all the way to the top of the basket. And I thought, what in the world is anybody going to do with that many greens unless they own a restaurant? That must be it. So I just moseyed over beside her and I said, do you mind if I ask what you're going to do with those greens? And she said, they're for my iguana back home. Well, that was a bit of a shock to me. That wasn't the kind of answer I expected. Iguana? Yes, I have an iguana. Where do you keep it? Well, it's in the bathtub right now, but it sleeps at the foot of my bed. How big is this iguana? It's about 4 feet long. I walked away thinking, when am I going to quit asking people questions? I could not imagine someone having a pet iguana. So the next time I see someone filling up a big basket of greens, I'm going to say, do you have an iguana too? Well, I thought you might enjoy that little story because it's one of those that kind of sticks with you and you think, what made me ask that woman that question? That's it for today. I'm going to see what I can do with my hair now. Oh gosh, from here it looked pretty bad. But don't be looking at my hair. Look at my pretty dishes. And I'll see you in a few days. Be sure and share my videos with your friends. There'll be some that will enjoy it. And I'm counting on that. And thank you very much. Come on. It won't click off.